My studio is a disaster right now. So today we're going to clean things up, move some things around, take some things down, and introduce some new things, or new to this room anyway. And we're going to get to that as soon as I shout out today's patron, and that shout out goes to Derek Taylor. Thank you so very much for the support. Let's get started. I know, it's bad in here. I kind of let it get out of control. I've just had no motivation to clean in here or anything like that. And it's finally getting to me. It's finally kind of at a tipping point where I'm like, okay, I got to do something about it. So that's what we're doing today. I also realize this is a good opportunity to tell you about some upcoming videos. This is the Mistrix Pro. It's a pad-based MIDI controller that's pretty much completely custom. The company who makes it is called 203 Electronics, 203 Systems, something like that. But they sent this over to me, and it's another kind of one-man operation. And I've been slowly making my way through all the different functions. You can actually have custom apps on it and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, expect a video on that in the nearish future, I would say. Got a little kalimba here that a family member found and gave to me. They just found it randomly, like on the street, which is kind of crazy. Then all this other stuff, it's just things that I've been using to work on music, except Rat Trap here, my Transmetal Rat Trap. That's been a fidget toy for me, but as you can see, the desk is way too crowded to fidget with anything right now. Also got the MIDI Cake Art over here, a device I'm still trying to come to terms with and trying to figure out if it has a space in my setup at all. Workflow-wise, I just really have not clicked with it at all, but I keep trying. Also, I've got a lot of gear just leaned up against the wall right now. These are things that I've either recently made videos with or recently been just using to make music. So that will all get cleaned up and put into a proper spot. And then, speaking of getting things cleaned up, sadly, it is time for the acoustic drum kit to come down, which makes me sad. When my wife and I moved into this house, one of the things I was most excited about was being able to have the acoustic drum kit set up, but unfortunately it is just not working for Freebeat as a whole right now. I love having it set up and I do play it quite often, but as you can see, it takes up quite a lot of space in this room that is not very big at all. It's actually smaller than my studio space was at the apartment. And the fact that no one in my audience really cares about acoustic drums that much means that I can't make content with this. I can't showcase gear really as much as I'd like to with this setup. It's just turning a small room into an even smaller room in terms of what I can actually use to make content. And so for now, temporarily, it is going to come down. Beautiful day today, isn't it? Wow. But out here in the Beat Barn, we've got my electronic drum kit, and I've actually been using this quite often with my electronic music gear in and out of videos. And while I do love having it out here where I can open this big door and, you know, play basically out in nature, right now for where the channel is at and where I'm at with space, I think it makes a lot more sense to move this into the current studio where the acoustic drum set is right now. Space-wise, this takes up a lot less space, and it just has a stereo pair out or just one MIDI cable out rather than needing 4 mics and then mic placement and cables for all of that, you know, and keeping it in tune. It's just way more effort than it's worth for me to keep the acoustic drum kit set up while I'm working out of that tiny room. So I think by the end of today, this kit is going to be in the studio. You also might be wondering what's going on with this space here, which a month or two ago I posted a video talking about how this was probably going to be the new home of Freebeat. And that is still true. However, that project is on hold because my wife and I eventually want to buy this property, and we don't want to put a bunch of money into it before we buy it while we're still renting. So yeah, this project is on hold for now. But there is still a very large chance that this space is going to eventually become the home of Freebeat. Anyway, back in the studio here, and I'm just gonna get to work, so I'll see you all in like what feels like 10 seconds, but it'll probably be at least an hour or two. All right, so it has been a lot more time than I thought. It's been like 3 or 4 hours, but I've been caught up doing other things as well. As you can see, I have gotten things picked up, cleaned up. There's still some gear hanging out down here. This is a lot better. I got distracted playing with the Mistrix for a bit. But I did get the drums out, the acoustic drums out rather, and I got the electric kit in, at least the skeleton of it. The cat is also in here. She's checking things out. But I'm now realizing this isn't as much space as I thought. And if I want to have this little shelf with the MC707, the Keystep 37, and hopefully the SP404 Mark II, I'm gonna need just a bit more room to be able to get in and out, you know? So I think this shelf is also going to go. This has some more gear stored on it, and the LiveTrack L12, which I don't think I'll need for this setup. So I think this shelf is gonna actually wind up going over here, and then this is gonna scoot over, and everything will move forward a bit. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I've got this shelf moved. However, it's still really tight. So I think the answer is to move the wardrobe, which is just jam-packed with video and music-related stuff, over here, probably in the corner where the shelf is, and then put the shelf like right here, which shouldn't really interfere with the filming area there. The whole reason this moved over here in the first place was to be able to fit the acoustic drums. I originally had it against that wall in the first place before I thought I could fit the drums in here, or the acoustic drums, which I did, of course, but as I said earlier in this video, it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. Okay, so I got the wardrobe moved and the shelf moved, and technically, I have enough space to squeeze in here and sit at the drums. First problem is that I need the 707 and the Keystep 37 to be much higher up. This is very uncomfortable to play at. Part of the reason I did this was so I could actually have, you know, easy access to these pieces of gear pretty much all the time and still be easily filmable. Kind of regretting this decision. Not the decision to clean the studio, it really needed it, and I was glad to get stuff sorted. I'm excited to vacuum here in just a few minutes, but I kind of regret the decision to swap out the acoustic drums for the electric kit. I didn't measure anything because I figured, well, the electric kit is much smaller footprint-wise than the acoustic kit, right? So it should obviously fit, but I totally forgot that I wanted to have this setup here as well. So I'm just kind of feeling cramped right now. This room is very small. I know it doesn't look like it on camera, but it is like 8 by 9.5, 8 feet by 9.5 feet. And that would be plenty of space if I was just wanting to set up my drums. But there's also the entire YouTube production side of things, you know, where I have to have a lot of extra space and I have to have a lot of gear stored and things like that. I feel like I will probably feel better if I can make this part of the setup a little higher up. That'll probably help me out quite a bit in terms of where I am mentally with this battle. Okay, well, unexpected time skip of like 14 hours because it is now the next day. It is Friday, the 20th, I believe, and I think you're watching this on the 23rd. But the studio is done. Look at that. It is clean. It is rearranged. It is just so much nicer to look at. And it's so much more open. So let's talk about that. Obviously, one of the biggest changes is that the wardrobe is now in this corner. It was right here off the wall. I now can access the light switch again. Although I don't really think I need to. I've got a Philips Hue bulb right there, and I'm going to put a Philips Hue bulb in that lamp as well. Then, of course, the other giant change is that the acoustic drums are no longer here, and instead we have my electronic kit. My Roland TD17 KV with some alterations. I've got a lemon ride cymbal here. However, I also figured out the solution for the rest of the setup here. You'll see I've brought in the stand that I had out in the beat barn. That's what I had the live rig on. And I've been wanting to get a new stand for the live rig anyway, so I was like, you know what, let's just bring it in. We can raise everything here up, which I mentioned I wanted to have all this higher for, you know, better ergonomics when playing. We're absolutely there. We've got the MC707 at a great angle. We've got the keys almost flat, so I can actually, you know, play somewhat properly. They're mini keys, and I don't care that much about technique, but at least it feels comfortable now. You'll also notice down here we have the SP404 Mark II. You'll notice I added this little arm here to a nub that was sticking out on the kit rack. And then what I did is I actually took a piece of wood and screwed it to this mount, this old drum module mount that I had, so I could get it onto the rack. And what's great about that is because of the rubber feet of the SP404 Mark II, it's not going anywhere. I could do some Velcro, which I thought I was going to have to do, but turns out it doesn't need it. I can wail on this thing, and the whole thing shakes around a bit, but like it's not going anywhere. Now you'll notice the Morningstar MC6 Pro down here. I don't actually have a good preset set up on this yet, but the main reason I had it here was to act as a USB host for the KeyStep 37. You see, due to the size of this stand, I can't actually access the 5-pin MIDI out in the back, so I had to use USB type B here for both power and MIDI. So that's going out into the MC6 Pro, and then the MIDI out of the MC6 Pro is going into the MIDI in of the MC707, and the MIDI out of the MC707 is going into the MIDI in of the SP404 Mark II. And the idea there is that I can use the KeyStep 37 to control all of the synths and sounds on the MC707, but then if I want, I can actually switch it over and control the vocoder or chromatic mode of any sample, but mainly the vocoder on the SP404 Mark II, which you'll notice I've got this 1/4 inch right here, which can just go into the, there it is, the input jack, and that goes up to this microphone right here, which is on this stand, and I can just pull it down like that and use it whenever I want. You'll also notice I've got my in-ear monitors coming out of the headphone jack down here. They're just sitting in the cup there, in the cup holder. And then I'll probably also bring over a pair of my Audio-Technica headphones and plug them into the other headphone jack, to the 1/4 inch there. So not only can I have someone else listen in if they want, but I can also just kind of pop on the other headphones quickly for a fast session if I don't want to go to the trouble of putting the IEMs in. I also do plan on programming some patches for the MC6 Pro to control a variety of parameters. I haven't exactly explored what I can do there yet, but the possibilities are certainly exciting. At some point, I will probably also route the MIDI out from my drum module into the MIDI in of the MC6 Pro, so I can also use the drum pads to trigger the MC707 and the SP404 as well. I would also like to possibly integrate the polyend press into the setup to be able to provide some sidechain compression, specifically for elements in the 707. A lot of you probably don't even know that I have this pedal. I haven't used it properly on the channel yet. That's because I just haven't really had the setup that called for it. Now I think I do, especially with the I/O on the back of the 707 here, with the assignable outs, the returns, and the sends. I should be able to set up that pedal to get some sidechain compression going on, which should be pretty nice. So I do think that's going to do it for this video. Quite a stark difference between where we started and where we ended up, and I can't wait to start using this setup and make content on it. Ugh, I need to clean the windows. Yikes. I do hope you found this one informative or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.